Welcome back to our channel. Okay, I don't have to shout. Welcome back to our channel. It's an incredibly windy day, but we're trying to shoot this video. We've been trying to shoot this video for months. Everybody's been asking us about this bicycle and why we have it, why we like it, what we don't like about it. So this is sort of our review of the Radpower Radwagon 4. We've had this for more than a year now.
We've got a lot to say.
Put 1,500 kilometers on it, and we've used it probably not in the way you plan on using it. I'll give you an idea of what we like about this bike and whether you should maybe consider it. If you don't know us, we travel full time at the moment with our motorhome around Europe, and we decided that a bicycle like this could change the way we explore things.
We were considering looking at the option of getting a scooter, but we decided to go for a cargo bike instead, primarily because it can fit on an ordinary bicycle rack behind the motorhome, and we didn't need a specialized scooter rack.
So this review is not just for people motorhoming around Europe, this is also for people considering buying the Radwagon. Now, since we bought our Radwagon, a whole bunch of different options became available around Europe. At the time, I think the Radwagon was very competitively priced, but that's also something we'll touch on and why it's so well priced.
We're going to start off by telling you why we decided to get this bike particularly. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons of this bike. We're going to tell you all the accessories that we've added, what we think are possible or necessary upgrades. We're going to talk about how practical it is for two people as opposed to a person, and cargo, which is what it's really made for. We're going to talk about the battery life and then end off with a few general aspects and whether we're happy with the bike or not.
Welcome to our channel. We're Andre and Lisa. Over the last 20 years, we have traveled together to more than 40 countries. 5 years ago, we embarked on a long-term sabbatical and have been nomadic ever since. For most of the past 2 years, we have been exploring Western Europe with our motorhome. This year, we plan to make our way through Eastern Europe towards Denmark for summer. We'll be heading south for winter and just maybe make it to Morocco. So hit that subscribe button and join our adventure.
Guys, before we start this review, let me just tell you, this is the EU spec version of the Radwagon. If you're in North America, you get a slightly different specification. I think we limited to 250 watt motors, and there's also no throttle, full throttle control, so keep that in mind. Secondly, we're not sponsored by Radwagon. We're not paid to make this video. We will put a referral code in the description below, which will give you a discount if you do decide to buy any of our Radpower bikes. Purely our opinion and not a recommendation per se. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that there's a legal gray area on whether you're allowed to transport two adults on a single bicycle. The bicycle needs to be designed to carry more than one adult. Obviously, tandems are designed, but what is a bakfiets or a cargo bike or a tricycle? Those are they designed to carry cargo? A lot of these long-tail cargo bikes are primarily used for hauling goods and children. The reason why I'm mentioning is keep in mind that you may or may not find yourself in a place where someone's going to ask, I don't think you're legally allowed to cycle with two people. It's a bit of a bizarre concept because it's not like we're going faster. It's not like we're doing anything different. It's not like you're balancing precariously on the handlebars and causing a hazard.
Check the regulations in the country that you plan on using the bike. So the reason we ended up deciding on this bike, like I said, a bicycle ended up being more practical than a scooter, considering that we are traveling full-time by motorhome.
I wish we could have both. In fact, I wish I can say, can we press a button and it turns it into a scooter, then into a bicycle.
Oh, that would be amazing.
But we can't, alas. And we'll tell you why.
We looked at considerations of a scooter, motorized scooter, which meant that we would have to have a special bike rack built in a scooter rack on the motorbike. We also considered very much more portable electric scooters, the standing, riding ones like that. But those you also can't go as far necessarily and aren't as comfortable, and you can't transport goods on. This sort of ticked all the boxes. We can ride on bicycle paths. It's light enough to put on a bicycle rack. We can both ride on it, and considering that I am no good on two wheels by myself, it makes it a lot easier and more relaxing for Andre to be able to pedal, and I can just sit at the back, navigate, film, take photos, and enjoy the ride.
Keeping in mind that you might use this bicycle very differently than we are. We use it to explore areas that we don't want to use public transport, we don't want to go on foot. We can cover distance quite quickly. It makes it a hell of a convenient to park the van at a campsite or out of a city. You have one bicycle you have to look after. You don't have to have two people independently navigating busy streets. It just simplifies getting from A to B faster.
It is also a good way to be able to be parked in one place and use the bike to go and do grocery shopping, for instance. You can even go and fetch some water to fill up the van, things like that, carry heavy cargo on the bike.
Let's talk about build quality. Now, when we looked around more than a year ago, these bicycles were selling for about 1,800 euros. And we figured it offered fantastic value. Now, price has gone up, and there are a few other options sort of in the 2,000 euro price range. What we liked about it is the build quality seems pretty good in that price class. Now, you have to understand there are some limitations when it comes to that price point, and you have to account for that with this bicycle. I think structurally the bicycle is very, very well made. It's got a solid frame, aluminium structure with fantastic weld points. What I liked about it, because I'm quite tall, is it's got a double seat post that goes quite high, so it's very well adjustable. And also the handlebars are fully adjustable rearwards and forwards, so it can suit almost any body position, which I really like. Now, out of the box, it comes with a fairly decent seat. This is not the standard seat, this is an aftermarket seat. We'll come to that. The standard seat's got a nice little handle at the back. Unfortunately, this bicycle's got no suspension, so it can be quite hard. That's something you have to keep in mind. Furthermore, as a center stand, which makes loading very convenient, but this is not a standard configuration. On the back has boards for load space, and you have the option of adding runner boards each side. You have the option of adding a caboose to carrying kids, and obviously different seat configurations. We'll get to that in a moment. It comes with standard rear lights, front lights, all ready to go. It's got a little throttle that's limited to, I think, 7 kilometers an hour, and then obviously it's got the pedal assist options as well. Where we think they may have taken some shortcuts, and this is understandable, is although it has disc brakes, it comes with mechanical calipers, which in my opinion is not enough to stop a 200 kilogram contraption going down a steep hill. So we have opted to change our mechanical calipers to hydraulic calipers. I'll show you that in a minute. Rad Power Bikes has unfortunately run into a lot of trouble over the last year with the tires they chose to put onto these specific models, as there was a massive recall internationally due to some failures that was rather catastrophic. We were part of the recall, but we opted to go our own route. Our rear wheel exploded spectacularly, and because of these bikes are so heavy, if the rear wheel is flat, there's no way you can even push it. It just doesn't roll. And secondly, I was just grateful we weren't going very fast when it happened. We were almost at a complete standstill. I can just imagine if you're going at high speed what would happen. Radwagon has started rolling out new tires. The sad part is that the rim size proprietary, so you can't go into any bicycle shop and buy tires that will fit this specific rim. We chose to not look at that as a restriction, and we actually fitted lightweight moped tires or scooter tires, and that was actually quite an easy fix. And personally, I think it's a massive upgrade to the bicycle. It makes it a lot more stable, gives you better grip, and I feel a lot more safe and secure knowing that there's a solid tire which is not going to fail in the worst possible place. Now, it does have some downsides. Unfortunately, the tire itself is a little bit heavier. It helps if you increase your pressure on the tire a little bit, but you might see that there's slight deterioration in your range. The front is still running the original Rad tires, but this one's still looking good. These are hydraulic, cable actuated hydraulic calipers for the brakes, and makes quite a big difference to the stopping power. You can buy a pair of these for around $40 to $50, I would say, from Amazon, and it's money well spent.
Continuing on with accessories and the changes that we've made to the standard bike. Initially, we just got a gel seat cover for the seat, but we then later upgraded to this very fancy squishy seat, which has made a big difference with a little bit more suspension. The original proprietary seat actually has a very nice handle over here for pillion, but instead I've got these little grips which I can hold onto, which work very well. Originally, we had just put one of the cheap little seats at the back over here, also made for children, but that was not comfortable enough and didn't last. So we paid for a motorcycle pillion seat, which works very, very well.
What is this, darling?
This is an added suspension, but this is twofold. It's both for the added suspension and also just to raise the seat ever so slightly, because what you'll notice is if I get on and I put my foot pegs down.
It's all about the knee.
It's all about the angle of the knee. Now, if you've got very long legs, I can imagine that this would be much more of a problem. For myself, who's very short, this makes it so much more comfortable. to have a good knee position. We also had small children foot pegs on initially, which we've upgraded to the Radwagon foot pegs, and I can say that this is a huge improvement. They just flick out of the way and they're very, very comfortable.
They give a nice little grip section here, and they're very light.
We also just added these little baskets, which we just strapped on with cable ties to be able to put goodies, phone, camera, things like that as we travel. And then from a rider's perspective, we added a review mirror. In fact, we've got 2 of these.
I would love to put another one, but I can't find a space to actually accommodate another mirror on that side.
And we've got a little tank bag over here so
For
that if
loose
Andre
goodies.
is alone, he can also navigate.
One other thing we added was a bicycle alarm,
Yes.
which is quite nice. So we can arm it. This gives you a little bit more security. One thing we're still working on is extra security for our battery. It is a bit of a concern, but I think we're just going to Casey Neistat it and make it really ugly.
For my size person, I find it very comfortable as a pillion to be able to sit here, to be able to hold on with one hand and still film and look past the rider to be able to get a point of view.
Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like if I'm on the bicycle as well in a minute. If you've got kids, you can probably keep it on the center stand. I'll get on and then Lisa will hop on.
It's very nice and easy to just swing her leg around the back and get on.
As you can see, Lisa's view is a little bit obstructed, but
The giant rider.
I have offered that she can do the cycling and I'll sit in the back very happily. Or
Now-
she can turn around. At the end of this video, Lisa's going to sit backwards. We're going to film ourselves riding around.
So another few practicalities of this bicycle being for 2 people is that its maximum payload is 158 kilograms, as well as the rear rack capacity is only designed for 54 kilograms. So we are absolutely just within those limits.
My recommendation is that unless you comfortably fall within that 150-ish range together, don't consider this as an option for 2 people. You have to understand that there's a massive cost to your range if you use the battery for assistance. And to be perfectly honest, this is a stock standard EU spec bike. It doesn't like hills. As a rider, you have to gear down all the way, slow going. On the really steep ones, we have to get off.
I have to
Lisa has
get off.
Some people are concerned that this bike is a little bit unwieldy, maybe a little bit heavier. Now the bicycle weighs about 30 kilograms. The wheelbase is quite long. I don't find it uncomfortable at all. It's got this little spring here, which is called a deflopper later or something like that, to help you don't get tank slappy type activities. But I think once you're used to the assist function, it's a very comfortable bike to ride and actually feels very planted and solid. But I'm just using a throttle to show you how tightly you can turn. Yeah, it's actually quite comfortable to really go tight.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about range. Now, when we got the bicycle, it was all a bit of an experiment because we're using it differently. We've almost always fully loaded. The terrain is a bit of an uncertainty. The stock batteries are like 48 volts and was it 672 watt hours? Now, depending on your weight, how much assist you use will give you a range anything from 30 kilometers to 130 kilometers. The very first time we went on a long distance was entirely at sea level, mostly on flat bicycle routes, pavement, and we made it more than 65 kilometers with the 2 of us on a single battery. Now this was on the original tires, so we didn't yet have an idea of how the new tire would impact us. Since then we've changed the tires and we've pushed it on rocky terrain, on dirt roads, and at one point we got less than 30 kilometers. We don't bargain on going anywhere further than 40 kilometers per battery, but what we have done is, I don't know if you want to bring that camera closer maybe. So as you can see, the standard battery sits here, but I've opted to cut this connection, put XT90 connectors on here. And the whole purpose of that was to take a second battery with us. Now this is just a second battery, same voltage that I got off Amazon. The idea is that I can take an extra battery. Now the extra battery does weigh a few more kilograms, but I just screw the bracket onto this pipe, and then using the XT90 connectors, I just switched to the second battery once the first one's depleted. So we pretty much built a double-decker battery bank to give us effectively double the range. Now the battery weighs a couple of kilograms, so just keep that in mind. We haven't really pushed the limit. We did do a trip once around the island of Fehmarn in the north of Germany with both these batteries, and I want to say that day We probably eased at 80 kilometers at high assist levels because it was a very windy day and it was a long day of cycling. Okay, let's wrap this up.
Some of the pros for us is that, especially at the price point that we got it, we think it's excellent value for money. Yes, it's not the best e-bike
No,
or best cargo
no.
bike, but for us it works really well. We were quite happy to spend a little bit extra on doing some upgrades on it.
I think you got to see this as sort of a good base to start with. You should probably expect to make some changes, improve it, eventually maybe upgrade your controller. I would love a mid-drive motor, but I think this is a brilliant bicycle out of the box, off the shelf. It gets delivered to your door, and it's a really, really good way to get started with cargo bike.
And for us with the camper, it's a very good way to be able to get around together, not have to worry about me being on my own bicycle, not have to worry about the complications of a scooter, being able to explore using cycle lanes.
Exactly, and also it's relatively light. I mean, I can pick it up quite easily, so it's easy for me to load it on the back of a standard Fiamma bicycle rack and take it down. Easy to keep covered, easy to lock. Now, in terms of locking, what we opted to do for security was to get 2 of these Kryptonite locks. Now, they're not cheap, and we've also opted to put a motorcycle ground anchor on the back of our motorhome so we can lock this bicycle to it. The truth is, the odds it's going to get stolen is probably higher when you're out and about. This bike has got some limitations. You know, you got limited range, you got limited carrying capacity. We can't go fast and quickly go do things. So inclines, hilly terrain is all a bit of a price for us. It strikes sort of this sweet spot that I think works for 80% of our requirements.
It's really fun cycling around on it, or in my case, just being cycled around on it. You get some interesting looks from people in certain countries. Other countries, nobody blinks an eye. I would say that the biggest cons for this bike are really the brakes and the tires and the suspension.
What you can do is if you have a heavy duty tire, you can run it at slightly lower pressure and it'll give you a bit more comfortable ride. However, that affects your range once again. Cons, it doesn't fit inside the van, which would be nice because of its length. It's 2 meters long. So it has to go outside. So even if we had a big enough garage for it to go into, it wouldn't fit. So that's a bit of the downside to me.
Considering that there was an issue with these tires in the time that we had our bike, Rad did give us very good customer support.
From our perspective, we had a fairly positive experience. I know not everybody which I've had contact with had the same experience. We were also proactive. I decided to change the tire regardless of what the outcome was at the time. We showed you a little bit about it. Now we've got plenty of videos where we use this bike. I'll link below maybe the trip we did in Fairmont, where you can see where we used the double battery. We did a nice trip in
Ghent?
yeah, there's not a lot of footage there, but we did a trip in Mon Island in Denmark where we did some aerial footage.
We cycled in Sagres all the way to the Point in Portugal.
There's also some drone footage of that, and we also did a long cycle all the way to Malaga on the Spanish coast. So there's a couple of nice videos you can go watch.
So if you'd like to perhaps follow us along the rest of our journey, making our way to Denmark and then Western Europe, making our way all the way to Morocco, consider clicking that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up.
I'll see you guys on the road. Happy cycling.
Happy cycling. Oh, this is so, oh my God, don't turn too tightly.
You ready? We gotta pick up speed.
Oh, no. Well, this is okay, but backwards is totally different. Oh, this is quite comfy.
Hi.